Thank you, Andrew, for that introduction. As was said, I'm Kathy from the Party for Socialism and Liberation out here in Queens. What we saw on Sunday was that all over New York City, there was protests that came out where hundreds of thousands of people came out in support of an end to police brutality, but really also an end to state violence. For us in Queens, it was really important that we come out because on June 5th, so just a few days prior, there was this announcement, this false announcement of a lootout in the Jackson Heights, Corona, and East Elmhurst community, which is a predominantly Latino community. And this is the first time that we hear politicians create this big alert saying, this is something that we have to stop. We have to make sure there's no lootout, blah, blah, blah. There was no organization that was linked to this lootout. And what we understood was that this was clearly a plan to try to divide and wedge a division between the Latino community and the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's why it was so important for us to protest that Sunday and say, no, this is also our struggle. And the people of the community were not fooled by politicians, by the police, by whoever made that call. Close to 1,000 protesters came out in the Jackson Heights, Corona, and Elmhurst community to demand an end to police brutality because we understand that this is also our struggle. Our community sees through the lies of Cuomo and de Blasio when they say that this is a sanctuary city, that this is a city that protects immigrants, because we see that when ICE comes to our communities to deport someone, they come being supported and being backed up by the NYPD. We also know that the NYPD puts our youth biasly, discriminatorily puts our youth into gang databases, which later can prohibit them from becoming a citizen or obtaining documentation. We also know that when they stop our community for very minimal crimes, nonviolent crimes, that it goes in the same database that is shared with ICE. We also have seen how the NYPD treats our immigrant street vendors that wake up every day to make food to feed the community. And that we have literally seen them throwing out the food of hardworking people in our community. And we know that this law that made street vending illegal was really created as an excuse for them to come into our communities, to racially discriminate our people, and to arrest us. And it was really the protests and the protesters that finally, about a week ago, got something passed saying that the NYPD can no longer stop and arrest street vendors. So we understand that the police is the repressive muscle of the state, right? We understand that when a landlord wants to kick out somebody from our community because they don't have enough money to pay the rent, because we have been neglected, our community has been neglected by the state during this COVID-19 pandemic. Undocumented people have not received any aid. And when landlords want to evict someone, who do they come with? They come with the NYPD. We know that we can't call the NYPD when our boss doesn't pay us, but we know that if we try to make the boss pay us, the boss could call the NYPD on us. So we know that they don't protect us in any way, that they oppress our communities. And we see this all the time. Right now, we see that only Black and Latino youth are representative of 5% of our New York City population, yet they account for 38% of all police stops. And some people can say, maybe they were doing something wrong. But no, 80% of those stops were of people that were completely innocent, weren't arrested at any point. So we know that both our communities are being impacted by police brutality. And it is very clear to us that this is also our struggle. Even if we look at how spending is being done in our communities, right? We look at schools that have, have more students, they could have over 30 students in a classroom with one teacher, that we don't have enough teachers, we don't have enough literacy courses, all of these things. Yet our budget is going to be cut by $800 million, but the funding of $6 billion for the NYPD is going to go untouched. And, we really can't fall into this, like into these divisive conversations that talk about, this being a Black issue. Okay. Because specifically for the Latino community, we know that that's a very age old argument that came through our colonization, right? We understand that the country actually in the Americas with the largest Black population is in Latin America, and it's in Brazil. And aside from Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Honduras, Venezuela, all of the countries of Latin America, we understand that also have large Black populations, and that we cannot equate being Latino to not being Black. And we need to stop erasing the African ancestry of our people, because that is playing into the same type of racist caste system that was tried to be imposed on us by our colonizers. And we really need to fight against that and not play into that, because a lot of Latino people are also Black. And we really need to remind our communities of this and stop trying to feed into this division. At the end of the day, we know that those that are going to continue to make the change in our communities and continue to stop the oppression by the police and police brutality, abolish ICE, defund police, that the people that really stand up for us are going to be the protesters, because it is us, the protesters, that are going to defend immigrants, that are going to defend Black lives, that are going to defend undocumented people, that are going to defend youth. And that's why we have to continue to be out in the streets, and not allow for these very small reforms that are being passed that are just trying to silence our voices, that don't guarantee any long-term wins, to silence us or to stop us from going outside. That we have to see through their facade, and that right now what we need is multinational unity, because we know that this state is oppressing all of us. Thank you.